Hi again, everybody. So today I watched A Wounded Fawn. It's streaming on Shudder. It comes to us from director Travis Stevens, who previously made Jacob's Wife and before that Girl on the Third Floor. He may have done some others, but those are the films of his that I have seen thus far. And I was very intrigued to watch this one, mostly just because there were a lot of really positive reviews on Shudder, and so I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Seriously, if you have a Shudder subscription, go read some of those user reviews for A Wounded Fawn, because people are slurping this movie's Peter like there is no tomorrow. So, did I love this movie as much as they did? Am I ready to get down on my knees and slurp away with the rest of them? No. No, I'm sorry, I'm not. But to be perfectly fair, I did not hate this movie. In fact, for most of it, I was kind of enjoying myself. I would say overall I enjoyed this more than Girl on the Third Floor, but still definitely less than Jacob's Wife. But when it comes to Jacob's Wife, not for nothing that Barbara Crampton was heavily involved in that movie's development besides starring in it. And I mean, Barbara Crampton is Barbara Crampton. While I definitely think that Travis Stevens still has a lot of potential as a horror filmmaker, you can see where having a collaborator like that really bolsters things a long way for him. Girl on the Third Floor also had a lot of potential, but it was ultimately undone, in my opinion, by CM Punk's substandard performance. I mean, going from a lead like that to Barbara Crampton in Jacob's Wife was like going from coach to first class. And while A Wounded Fawn is still a lesser film than Jacob's Wife as well, it at least benefits from a pair of very solid lead performances. You've got Josh Rubin, who is honestly pretty terrific here, and Sarah Lind, who I remember from Wolf Cop. And the tension that the two of them create, especially in the first half of the movie, is actually really solid work. And I don't consider what I'm about to say a spoiler because every synopsis that's been published for the movie just flat out reveals this. But if you really do like to go into movies as blank as possible, then I would suggest that you hit pause right now and go give the movie a look-see. You've been warned, here we go. Josh Rubin plays a serial killer who has a unique and twisted connection to a piece of art. A piece of art, in fact, that he has killed another woman for in the opening scene of the movie. And then we sort of fast forward to a little bit later on at a point where he's started a new relationship with Sarah Lynn's character, Meredith. Meredith is just getting over an abusive relationship that she managed to extricate herself from, and apparently has recovered enough that she has decided she's in the mood for a rebound fling because she's getting ready to head off with Josh Rubin for a weekend of hanky-panky in a cabin in the woods. And Sarah Lind does a good job of making this character feel sympathetic and convincing without ever trying too hard, although I doubt a woman who is still in therapy for her previous abusive relationship would be that eager to head off for a weekend of cabin sex. And the slow-burning tension in the first half of the movie is coupled nicely with some weird abstract stylistic flourishes, giving us a bit of a glimpse into the Rubin character's mind. My only nitpick from the first half, which is something that is sustained throughout the movie, is that I don't quite understand the choice to make everything deliberately grainy. Fake film scratches from the projector and that kind of thing. And judging by the phone technology, it's not like this movie is supposed to be set in the 80s or anything like that. It just feels very tacked on and kind of pretentious, and honestly, I think the movie would have been better without it. But aside from that, everything about the first half of this movie had me very interested and intrigued. And when the tension finally comes to a head and is released, or so you think, there is one moment following what appears to be the climax of the action that legitimately caught me out of nowhere. At that point, I was all settled in and psyched for the movie to win my heart over completely because it felt like from that point on, something was going to happen that was really special. Despite all the bold choices in art direction, costume, and style that continue throughout that second half, it's not that it went downhill exactly, but it kind of plateaus and doesn't really have much else to say. Again, even in the back half, Josh Rubin does not step wrong, nor does Sarah Lind really. To the degree that her character makes less of an impression, that's not a knock on her. As far as I can tell, she's just playing the character as it's written. Nevertheless, for all the skillful acting and all the artistic pizzazz, I never got past being interested all the way to being completely invested in this movie. It's just that once the second half of the movie kind of makes its point, if you want to call it that, it doesn't really have anything else to say or explore, and it's just kind of playing itself out for the last 30 minutes or so. Although I will say there is one moment that is so gory and weird and outrageous that it's the kind of moment that the phrase money shot was invented for. It feels like the sort of thing that David Lynch might have done if he ever tried fusing the style and color palette of movies like Lost Highway or Mulholland Drive with the don't give a fuck weirdness of Eraserhead. The very last shot of the movie, while it was interesting to see it drawn out that well, couldn't help but remind me of how much better the same technique was applied to the final shot of the movie Pearl. Anyone releasing a horror film this year is going to be irritated to all hell by references to Pearl or being compared negatively to Pearl, but tough shit, guys, Pearl exists, and it is a perfect movie. And the more I reflect on this movie, I can't help but be reminded of another film that's on Shudder that came out earlier this year, a small cosmic horror gem called Glorious. In terms of that film's exploration of a serial killer and the use of surreal imagery and really eccentric out-of-nowhere violence, that movie mines a lot of the same territory as this one, but with a lot more wit, intelligence, and charm, in my opinion. So on the whole, while there was nothing that I loathed about this movie, there wasn't quite anything that I completely loved about it either. And if by some chance you're watching this, Travis Stevens, I am still rooting for you 100%, but it would be my humble suggestion to find yourself another powerful collaborator like Barbara Crampton or someone like that to help you really boost things to the next level. With the right cast and a more polished, confident script, you will absolutely create a horror masterpiece. I know you've got it in you. Do not give up, my friend. Once again, a big thank you for watching and a big thank you to all of you for your continued support. I just passed 30 subscribers, which is pretty small fry, but the fact that there are even 30 of you out there who seem to think that I'm worth listening to yammer on is enough to set my heart aflight, so thank you so much. It's been a blast so far. Look for more Christmas-themed horror content the next time round, and I will catch you all later.